Welcome to Chandler High School, a big-time second-round matchup going on tonight between the Chandler Wolves and the Desert Vista Thunder. My name is Jared Cohen, joined tonight by Ralph Amsden. Ralph, it's a big game we got here tonight. Desert Vista is rolling. They're going to be kicking it off here tonight to Chandler, and this is two teams that played each other in the playoffs last year, and Desert Vista gave them some trouble, but Chandler was still able to come out on top.
I think that's Desert Vista's MO. They give everybody trouble. They play just sort of a base defense. They kind of get in your head. They run the ball. They're smart on offense, and I think that they might be able to hang with Chandler tonight.
We're underway. Riley Erickson kicks it away. It's a short kick that's mishandled at the 27-yard line. But it is maintained for the Chandler Wolves. They'll take over on offense. So we've got a sophomore quarterback, Jacob Conover, who's been he's been able to take his lumps this season, Ralph. But he's really kind of come into his own, especially during section play where they went 4-0 and won the section.
He hasn't just come into his own. I think he has 2 more incomplete passes than touchdown passes in his last 5 games. I think in his last 3 games he's throwing over 80% completion percentage. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the state right now.
Yeah, no question about it. Conover's going to roll out to his right on the first play of the game. There's nothing there. Nope, but he finds Johnny Jackson, enough for first down yardage and more before he's thrown out of bounds. Johnny Jackson has had an interesting couple weeks. Johnny Jackson is another player who used to play for U of A back in the day, wide receiver, same position. Johnny Johnson had an interesting week. UNLV commit got offered by Oregon this week.
And everyone had said it. It's just a matter of time, and it looks like that ended up being true.
There's a play action. Conover's looking downfield again. That's Gunnar Romney for first down yardage into Desert Vista territory to about the 45-yard line, and the Wolves moving the chains early.
Gunnar Romney from Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, is transferred over here, and coaches told me that they remind him a lot of their favorite receiver they've had over here, a name that you might be surprised by, but Justin Jan.
They loved Justin Jan here. Man, did he come into his own in his senior season. 1st and 10 for the Wolves. There's a handoff to TJ Green. Gets a block just shy of a first down. I'm surprised it's the first time they've gone to him on this drive. Normally it's a steady doses of inside runs, declaring that run on the first drive. That's been the Chandler MO, but they wanted to move it to the air. That was his first carry of the game.
They lean heavy on him, and it's paid off. They had a 4-game stretch where they scored on the first 5 drives that they had in each game.
Gained 7 on that play. 2nd and 3 just underway here in the first quarter. Wolves in their black with gray pants. Conover steps into the pocket. There's a flag on the play. He's going to slide for enough for a first down, but this is in the direction of holding right here.
Sometimes when the protection looks too good to be true, it is.
And that's going to move him back. And the call is holding on the Chandler Wolves. And when I have seen Chandler this season, it seems like at times the only thing that gets in the way is the Chandler Wolves. With the self-inflicting wounds and the penalties, I saw that a little bit earlier in the season. Not as much last time I caught them against Brophy, but that has seemed to kind of hurt them at times this season.
And I'd say that's been true for about 100 years of Chandler football.
There's a running back screen to Ryan Johnson, and he's going to take it all the way to the 10, the 5, and the Chandler Wolves strike first. The transfer from Detroit, Michigan gets the screen and takes it to pay dirt.
Ryan Johnson came out here from Michigan for an ASU camp. He's actually related to Kurt Mangum, who played for Chandler, went on to play for the University of Washington, and then Howard, and then transferred and finished up at Akron. And he performed so well in that ASU camp that they said, if you lived out here, we'd offer you. Well, he lives out here now, and he hasn't seen that offer, but he has gotten recruited by several schools, and his speed is definitely an asset for this Chandler team.
Well, they definitely let him loose. The extra point is up and good for Cash Peterman. So with 11:03 left here in the first quarter, the Chandler Wolves strike first on a big-time screen to Ryan Johnson, who takes it for a touchdown. And that's just one of the many ways that the Wolves can beat you with all these weapons they have all over the field, Ralph.
I'm not sure you can really focus on any one in particular when they have their best players on the field. And then when they're giving TJ Green a breather, you have probably one of the fastest players in the state. I know that he went head-to-head with Jawar Jordan in the Chandler Rotary track meet last semester and actually beat him.
Really?
Yeah, he is quick.
Well, that should make things pretty fun this year then. I'm looking forward to the track with those guys a year later, football behind them.
Absolutely. Chandler Rotary is my favorite event. Every single year you get 130 to 150 schools out here from all over the country taking on what has traditionally been a track school because they have a club program called the Cheetahs out here. And a lot of these guys that play for Chandler, they don't necessarily live in the district, but they open and roll because they've been part of this track program from 8 years old on up. And they get and basically when Sean Aguano brought the spread to this Chandler team, it allowed the track athletes that were already here to really have a home, and that's when you started to see them become more successful.
And there's a fumbled ball on the kickoff, and it looks like the Chandler Wolves have it. Cash Peterman did kind of a squib short kick, and it was misplayed by, I believe it was Chad Porter for Desert Vista, and the Wolves come up with it, so it'll be 1st and 10, and boy, they could really give quite the blow to the Desert Vista Thunder here in the first quarter.
Yeah, you'd hate to see that. If you're Desert Vista, you'd hate to see them go up 14-0 before 2 minutes run off the clock.
There's no question. The Desert Vista Thunder have been a tough, scrappy bunch. Even the Chandler Wolves coaches before the game were commenting on how tough they are, how physical they are. But if the Wolves can punch them in the mouth early, it'll totally change the tone. Conover back in, out of the shotgun, and it looks like a Desert Vista player might have jumped off sides before the snap. And that is the case. I believe that was Miles Wilson, senior captain, moving a little earlier. It might have been one of the linebackers.
These kickoffs, these little squib kicks that go really high in the air, teams are going to keep doing them. We've seen 2 fumbles already, 2 muffed kickoff receptions, and they're going to keep doing them until people figure this out.
Conover's going to hand it off. Inside run, TJ Green does some nice dance moves to be able to get positive yardage up to about the 17 or 16-yard line of Desert Vista. So it would be 2nd down coming up. But that could have been a loss that his moves was able to turn into about a 4 or 5 yard gain. Oh, I gave him 8 yards. So that's a heck of an 8-yard run right there.
Sure is.
Handing the ball off. This is Johnny Johnson, and he's hitting the backfield that time. That's Chad Porter, middle linebacker, who's kind of the heart and soul of this defense, one of the team captains, and he is everywhere on defense for Desert Vista.
If you can get your hands on somebody's jersey, somebody as strong as Johnny Johnson, and you can bring him down that way, then that really speaks to the training that you've had and the type of player you are.
They have a lot of guys like that. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. This isn't the most, when you look at Desert Vista, they're not the biggest, most physical-looking team, but they have guys that flat out play and are physical in nature. Conover's going to be flushed to his left. He's going to run it himself. There's no one in front of him. He gets across the 15, turns the corner, and down inside the 5-yard line. So good decision-making right there for Jacob Conover, who's not really known to run the ball quite as much, but does a nice decision right there to take it down inside the 5.
It was really the Hamilton game this year, the battle for Arizona Avenue, when we saw that Jacob Conover is more than just a pocket quarterback or somebody who can distribute the ball out into the flat. He had a long rushing touchdown against Hamilton, and it looks like they're sticking with that as an option for him.
1st and goal from the 4-yard line. It looked like a Chandler coach signaled for a timeout, but instead they run a play. TJ Green dives for the end zone. They're going to say he was down at the 1-yard line.
TJ Green currently has 27 touchdowns on the season. He was actually on pace, if he was able to get 3 in each playoff game, to tie Bobby Wade's record.
Bobby Wade.
He's one of the best players I've ever seen live, who was actually a Desert Vista alum.
Conover's going to keep it himself. And did he get it? Yes, he sure did. Jacob Conover with the 2-yard touchdown run, keeping himself on the zone read. And just like that, Chandler has gone up 2 scores, and there's still 9 minutes left here in the first quarter.
14 is about as far down as you want to be if you're Desert Vista. I've seen them come back. Obviously, they had that great comeback win against Desert Ridge, but Desert Ridge isn't the type of explosive team that Chandler is. Desert Ridge likes to get up a couple scores and then just do the boa constrictor thing where they kind of squeeze you out and make you quit. Desert Vista is definitely not going to quit no matter what the score is, but I tell you what, 14 is about the cap that you want to be at. If you're Desert Vista. You want to keep it within 2 touchdowns.
And especially the way Chandler's been able to move the ball up 2 scores, and the Desert Vista offense hasn't even been on the field yet.
You have Jacob Conover, who has thrown for a touchdown on a short screen pass, and he's run for a touchdown. This could end up being a really special night for him, but obviously Desert Vista wants to see if they can get back in. They're going to have a chance to do that right here on the kickoff, which is how they turn the ball over during their last possession.
Hey, want to show your school and your team just how much spirit and passion you have? Follow AZ Preps 365 on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Post your pics and share your thoughts using the hashtag AZPreps365. Cash Peterman in to kick things away for the Chandler Wolves. There's another one of those short kickoffs, and it is played and received well this time by Austin Werbelow, the senior. Sure hands right there. And now the Desert Vista offense will take over with a quarterback that I kind of describe plays with a little bit of an edge to him. Nick Thomas, dual threat quarterback, offers from academy schools, and he's just a flat football player when you watch him play in person.
There is no one in the state who believes more in the people around them than Nick Thomas. And I don't like to throw the Tim Tebow comparisons out when you're talking about high school quarterbacks, but in the attitude alone and the way he feels about his teammates, in the way that he tries to lift everybody up, you can definitely see him being military academy material.
They're going to hand the ball off. It's going to be an inside run right there to Leland Dillard. Leland Dillard going to be a name we call quite often on both sides of the football. He's having a remarkable senior season, and talking to Coach Hines before the game, they're expanding their playbook as the season has unfolded, getting him in the slot, trying to find more ways to get him the football on offense. And on defense, he has just come unglued in the second half of the year.
And one of the things that he told me a couple of weeks ago was that his biggest point of pride is 1 fumble throughout his whole high school career.
Oh, that's big time right there. Thomas, looks like they're trying to set up a screen. They are able to do it. There's Stagg, the big tight end, James Stagg, across the 40-yard line to the 45. And there's an impact player right there, just a junior, but I think this guy's going to be a household name, especially in the Arizona high school football landscape by the time all is said and done when he's a senior.
I think by the time this season ends, he's going to start, you're going to start hearing whispers of potential college offers for him. Charlie Regal and Rich Rodriguez were out to watch their game on October 20th, and they definitely had their eye on him.
Big, tall tight end. Gets the first down yardage right there. Here's Nick Thomas rolling out to his left. And as he throws it, it looks like there was a little bit of a bump right there. A pass was intended for Austin Werbelow, but incomplete and overthrown.
And I think that's a good no call. I think if you slow up and you cause the contact, then you're not going to get the flag on that one, or you shouldn't. And so good on the refs for not throwing the flag there.
So it'll be 2nd and 10 from the 44. It was Bryce Jackson, the junior defensive back, in on the coverage against Werbelow. Nick Thomas under center. Play action. Gonna have to get rid of it quick. He does. Nice tackle. No, he's not down yet as Porter makes the catch. His knee never hit the ground and had the wherewithal to stay up and keep moving. And it gets positive yards out of it.
And looked like a little bit of a dangerous play there by, I think, Bryce Jackson, who lowered his helmet, ended up underneath Stagg and kept Stagg from going down to the ground. He was just trying to make a play and ultimately looked a little bit shaken up on the play.
He walks off the field under his own power. After all that, just about a gain of 2 on that play on the throw to Porter. So it's 3rd and 8, and a big 3rd and 8 at that. Thomas feeling the pressure, gets rid of it, and he had to do it just to make sure he didn't take a sack. Incompletion, and it's 4th down for Desert Vista. They'll be forced to punt.
Desert Vista is one of those teams where, if you watch them and it's a 3rd and 8 scenario, they might try to get 5 or 6, and if they're in the territory, they might try to hammer it through with Leland Dillard. But it looked like they were going for it all right there.
So Riley Erickson will be in to punt. Gunnar Romney back to receive. And there's going to be a timeout called for the Chandler Wolves, who didn't look like they had all their personnel needed on the field. The AIA would like to take a moment to recognize the U.S. Army. In life, some things you can't control. Both, there are things that you can. But there are things that you can, important things like your future. The Army is all about the freedom to create a strong future that's right for your life. To learn more, visit goarmy.com/AIA today. There's strong, and then there's Army Strong.
Speaking of Army, they're having a great year, and they're led by quite a few Arizona prospects.
Quite a few, yes.
A lot of Southern Arizona guys.
They really went. They have been known to recruit Arizona pretty heavily over the last several years, but it's cool when you can see that actually coming to fruition at the next level. It's one thing to be really active in recruiting Arizona. It's another to land them and then have them make significant impacts.
Starting middle linebacker, starting center, starting wide receiver, all Arizona products for Army.
There's a nice punt away for Erickson. It's actually a little short, but takes a nice bounce to about the 16-yard line, where Jacob Conover and company will come out, and they've got a chance, Ralph, to go up 3 scores here on this drive here in the first quarter, which I honestly think is a result I wasn't expecting. I thought this was going to be a close one, at least in the early going.
I wasn't expecting it either, but one thing I can tell you about Chandler coaches, especially those responsible for calling the offense, Coach Garrettson and Coach Chick, that's exactly what they expect. They like to build a cushion early and see if they can't get some of their starters off the field in the second half. So out of the shotgun with TJ Green behind him is the sophomore Conover. Play action. Down the center of the field. It's complete. That's Johnny Johnson. Makes some moves, gets across the 40-yard line. Been one of the most impact, dynamic receivers in Arizona this season, even last season as well, and a big first down right there. Now, Johnny Johnson started off at Verrado, where he had a freshman season where he scored about 30 touchdowns. And as a sophomore, he only had 8 receptions, and I think that sort of fueled his decision to move about 50 miles across the valley and end up at a school that would use his talents a little bit better.
TJ Green with a big run right there into Desert Vista territory. Makes it look easy getting around the edge. And Desert Vista, they're on defense. They're going to really have to dig down right here, because they could find themselves in a huge hole in this game. First and 10 at the Desert Vista 37. Conover back to throw. He throws to the sideline a little too high for Gunnar Romney. It'll bring up second down, and that's really, I believe, the first incompletion of the game, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not keeping track here right in front of me, but it's the first.
And maybe Chandler was a little bit too much on that play going to the sideline and effectively double coverage over on the right. But if you're going to do that, you want to throw it up high and make sure nobody else can come down with it.
Second and 10. Hand the ball off to Ryan Johnson. Had a touchdown the last time he touched the ball. Now in space inside the 10. Still on his feet. And he's down in the end zone for a touchdown. Is he in? I haven't seen the signal yet. And they're going to call it a touchdown. Boy, Ryan Johnson, 2 touches and 2 dynamic touchdowns in this game, and the Wolves open up a 20-0 lead.
When Ryan Johnson came to Chandler, I think he was expecting to be in a situation where, he would get maybe 15 to 17 touches a game and really help this team out. But when you have as much success as Chandler's having this season, he's getting between 5 and 9 touches a game, but he's scoring 2 or 3 touchdowns. And so, and that's really all you can hope for is to be successful when you do have the ball in your hands.
Cash Peterman's extra point is up and through, and as you blink and you open your eyes again, it's a 3-score game here from Chandler High School. Desert Vista trails 21-0 to the Chandler Wolves.
And, this is what Chandler did to Brophy in a really, really eye-opening offensive explosion. Ended up 49-0 by halftime, and after one possession in the second half, 56-0. And I mean, that's the most points a Scooter Molander team has ever given up in his entire tenure there. I believe it was the 4th most they'd given up in their entire history as a program dating back to 1957. And so Chandler can really, really make great teams look bad with all of their skill players on offense and a quarterback like Conover who does exactly what you need him to, get the ball to the playmakers out in space. And on that play, you had Gunnar Romney blocking downfield, and that block essentially sprung Ryan Johnson for the touchdown.
As I look down on the sideline, it looks like TJ Green is being looked at by a few different players. I'm wondering if there's an arm or a shoulder that could be the issue right now, as Werbelow receives the kick, picks up a head of steam, and then is brought down across the 30-yard line. It kind of looks like they're looking at TJ Green's right shoulder, but he seems to be okay. A return out across the 30-yard line for Desert Vista, but a very slow start for them, as they need to get points on the board here immediately to try to inch back into it. But you're right, we called the Brophy game here. That was my last time here, and then I saw Brophy last week knock off Pinnacle, and it was hard to believe that that was the same football team that we saw against Chandler, especially on offense, because they were moving the ball with relative ease against Pinnacle. Granted, it's a different defense, but it's just crazy to think that was the same team, as there's a pitch, fumble, and it's recovered by Chandler, and they're going to take it back the other way for a touchdown.
Unbelievable.
A botched pitch from Thomas to Dillard, picked up by Parker Henley, who takes it back for a touchdown, and it's 27-0. The Chandler Wolves lead Desert Vista.
And that fumble recovery for a touchdown from Parker Henley, that's really the cherry on the sundae of what has been a very good season for him. Very good season for him. Chandler was missing some senior leadership off of last year's team, some people who had been around 2 or 3 years each, like Thomas Chisholm, KT Tellini, and Parker Henley has really stepped in to be the leader of this defense.
It seems like him and Sam Pepper have taken their games to another level this season and have been great leaders, as the extra point is up and through. 28-0, and there's still 6:13 left here in the first quarter. Desert Vista is just stunned right now with the way they have been rolling through the last 2/3 of the season. They find themselves down 28 points.
We are currently on pace for a 224-0 rout out here at Austin Field.
My goodness. The AA would like to recognize for a moment Arizona Christian University. ACU is a private, nonprofit Christian university in Phoenix, offering bachelor's degrees in a variety of different areas of study. Arizona Christian University provides a biblically integrated education that prepares its graduates to serve the Lord in ministries in professional occupations. Visit arizonachristian.edu for more information.
I tell you what, I used to teach English, and one day I checked my mailbox, and it was a letter, I believe, from Donnie Yantis, former Paradise Valley coach, and what it said was, if you have any players, we're starting an NAIA football program in Arizona. That was a great day for the state of Arizona.
Absolutely, no question. They've won back-to-back section titles with pretty much all Arizona kids at the NAIA level. It's been pretty good what they're building over there. As Elijah Gamage returns that short kick, nowhere to go, though. He's taken down around the 23-yard line, where Nick Thomas and company will come back out on offense. And at this point, it's just about getting themselves in order right now. Just try to get themselves back together in order to try to put some points up on the board and make some plays.
Yeah, they've donated 2 Chandler touchdowns to charity right now, and they got to cut that out. No more fumbles, no more interceptions. Just run your offense, calm down, do what you can from this point.
Thomas, they're going to set up a screen to Chad Porter. Hauls it in, but well defended. As 44, Zach Bowers, a guy that I am really high on, just a sophomore. I think he's going to be one of the top players on this defense for the next couple of years.
When you hear the way that Chandler coaches talk about him, I mean, they're around talented players all the time, and that's something that can really tip you off to, the fact that he could be really good. And they have a lot of sophomore talent on this team. DeCarlos Brooks, who plays on offense and defense, is another one, and it just seems like every year they're reloading.
They credited Porter with 2 yards on that play. Here's a play action for Thomas. They're going to air this one out downfield, and it's incomplete, but a flag is thrown. It looks like a pretty good throw in the direction of Jake White. But a flag comes down at the end of that play in the direction of pass interference. And I believe that's on Cito Hemphill Toledo.
Another one of the fastest players in the state, and that's potentially the reason why Jake White couldn't break away on that play. Really smart move by Jake White to bring his arm up and over Cito Hemphill, because it made it look as though there was more contact on that play than there really was. Had he just brought his arm through, there's a potential that flag doesn't get thrown. And this is some momentum that Desert Vista desperately needs right now.
Yeah, that moves the chains. And the ball up to the 39-yard line, 1st and 10 for Desert Vista. They've had a couple plays downfield, but they mentioned turnovers here early. Turnovers was the problem at the beginning of the season for Desert Vista. They almost had a win, as it looks like there's going to be a false start here as left tackle Nick Lopez moved a little bit early. But I talked to Coach Hines about this. And, first game of the year is against Perry. We know the kind of season Perry had. Desert Vista was in control of that game until they turned the ball over a couple times in the second half, allowed it to go into overtime, and then Perry won in overtime. Yeah, and that was kind of the story at the beginning of their season.
I believe Desert Vista had a possession in overtime
and they fumbled
the
there too.
And so I think that was the real boost of confidence that Perry needed to have the success that they've had this year. And then Desert Vista, that boost of confidence for them came on October 20th when they came from behind to beat Desert Ridge.
Thomas is going to throw a little hitch route to the slot. Complete, but nice tackle to prevent big yardage. I believe the pass was complete to Werbelow right there. Just under 5 minutes left here, still in the first quarter, as it's 27-0. Chandler Wolves on top of Desert Vista. The only thing that has gone wrong was the missed extra point after their last touchdown. Thomas has 2 to his left, 1 to his right. He's going to roll to his left on an out route, in and out of the hands of the intended receiver. That was Austin Werbelow, the junior. Had him on a routine out route from the slot position, but can't corral it in, as 15 Kendon Walker, the safety, was there to lay the initial hit, which might have caused the pass breakup.
Chandler sure is making Desert Vista put in a ton of work to just try to pick up 3 and 4 yards at a time.
4 wide receivers set for Desert Vista. Thomas is back to throw. He's going to have to step into the pocket. Now he's going to air it out down the middle of the field, and it's overthrown, intended once again for Jake White. Incomplete, 4th down, and the Thunder will have to punt once again. And it was Cito Hemphill Toledo there on the coverage, along a couple other Chandler players. That was relatively forced ball from Nick Thomas. And now Riley Erickson will punt away. Gunnar Romney back to receive. The cool story with Gunnar Romney that I learned earlier in the season was his dad started a football league in Mexico. And it started off as he's there to receive the punt. Hit initially, but now he's got some space as he breaks that tackle, crosses the 35, and now he's down around the 35, where Chandler will take over on offense. But initially, his dad just wanted to get some people together to just play some football and learn the game. It turned into a little league, kind of a league that developed a few teams, and then that league started more or less a club team that would travel to Arizona and Texas and New Mexico for football tournaments.
And what's incredibly interesting about Gunnar Romney and his story is that 4 years ago, when we just came off of a presidential election, 4 years ago there was another presidential election going on with a distant relative of his, Mitt Romney. And my first actual experience of learning about Gunnar Romney came from a profile they did of the Romneys in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico.
Interesting.
Who haven't really met Mitt or don't have a relationship, but they are distant relatives. And they did an entire profile of the family. And the cover photo for this long article was like Gunnar Romney in junior high just jogging in the street.
Wow.
And so
that was the cover
of the article, yeah. And 4 years later, here he is playing for Chandler High and competing for a state championship.
On first down, Ryan Johnson with an 8-yard pickup. And now on 2nd and 2, it's Conover, hands the ball off to TJ Green, tries to cut back up the outside. And I believe, no, that was Ryan Johnson once again, picks up about 4. He needed 3 or 2 or 3 to get the first down, so the Wolves are moving the chains once again, now out to about the 46-yard line of Desert Vista. Been all Chandler Wolves, and we're still in the first quarter, leading at 27-0 here in the first.
And elsewhere in the city, first quarter's already over in between Hamilton and Perry. Hamilton leading 14-7.
So throw over the middle. Almost a beautiful grab on a throw behind Johnny Johnson, but he can't bring it in. And it'll be second down. What's the score of that game?
14-7. Hamilton currently leading Perry at the end of the first quarter.
That's an interesting game because for Perry, what a remarkable season, record-setting season. They beat Hamilton for the first time, and what's your reward? You got to face Hamilton again in the second round of the playoffs. You knew you'd have to face one of these teams again, but a team that's really had their numbers in their way of advancing in the playoffs is there's a screen set up for Romney, and he takes it across midfield just shy of a first down.
And the thing with Perry is they've never been in this position before. They've only been to the second round of the playoffs once ever. They've never been the favorite, and they're in a situation where they're confident with what they're doing, so they don't feel like they have to make any adjustments. So that kind of puts you on the defensive. Hamilton's made a lot of adjustments, put a lot of players that were on offense on defense, and what they're hoping to do is that have those changes really come out and surprise Perry. Looks like it's working so far.
Neutral zone infraction right there. It looks like interior lineman moved a little bit early. I believe that was Brett Johnson, the sophomore for Desert Vista. So that's 5 yards and now first down for Chandler in Desert Vista territory as we have 2.5 minutes left here in the first quarter. Play action, Conover. He's going to air it out. He's got a man downfield. It's caught. The 10, the 5, touchdown, Jarrett Caldwell. And the Wolves have put a 30 spot on Desert Vista here in the first quarter. That one from 42 yards from Conover to Caldwell.
It's mind-boggling that somebody can get that open that quickly, but Chandler knows what they're doing offensively. I think it's possible Desert Vista was expecting a sweep or a running play, and they knew where they were going the entire time, and it definitely paid off for Chandler on that play.
So now Cash Peterman in for the extra point. That one is good. So with 2:22 left here in the first quarter, 34-0 Chandler over Desert Vista. At this moment, the AIA would like to recognize Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's is looking for the best Arizona high school football fans in the state. Stop by your nearest Raising Cane's location, take a picture of you and your friends in your high school football gear, and send the picture with the hashtag FingersFridayFootball. The best picture of the month will receive free Raising Cane's for a year. You hear that, Ralph? Get your high school garb on, Ralph. Remember, stop by Raising Cane's on game day, take a picture, and send it to hashtag FingersFridayFootball for your chance to win. Raising Cane's, the official chicken finger of the AIA.
That's a lot of sweet tea.
Whatever their special sauce is, too, I would not mind a year's worth of that. It's money.
You know what? Fry sauce is popular all over the country, except for Arizona, where it's like a luxury item you find in 2 or 3 places.
That's true. There's Elijah Gamage again on the return. Dances around from a couple tacklers before he's taken down just shy of the 30-yard line. So Elijah Gamage is a heck of a story because this is a guy that was at Valley Christian, played a lot of different roles with the team, transfers to Desert Vista, has to sit out 5 games per the new rules of the AIA. And normally when you're forced to sit out, you kind of wonder the attitude of a kid who knows he's good enough to be on the field. Coach Hines tells me that he was the model athlete and teammate for the team in the 5 games and the preseason he was forced to sit out. They do a Scout Team Player of the Week award, and he won it almost every week out of those 5 weeks before he played. And then since he's played, he's been a monster.
He's a special player. I mean, he played at Valley Christian, and we would always speculate when talking about him where he ranked among the players within the city of Chandler going to a private school on the west side of the city.
There's a quick out from Nick Thomas to Werbelow, who's hit immediately for a loss by a swarm of Chandler Wolves. So moving backwards 2 yards on first down, but going back to Elijah Gamage.
Yeah, Elijah Gamage, he played quarterback for Valley Christian as a true freshman. He's also a very talented basketball player. He also played defensive back, and I think he actually led the division or was, I believe, in the top 3 in the division as a freshman for interceptions. And then he's come in as a junior in only 6 games. He's responsible for 8 takeaways in 6 games leading up to tonight.
Pretty remarkable.
It's amazing.
Quick throw out to Werbelow again. He's been targeted quite a bit by Nick Thomas. That gets him just shy of the 30-yard line.
And unfortunately for Elijah Gamage, he's not able to be at Sun Devil Stadium right now, where his older brother is playing in his last game at Sun Devil Stadium.
This is true.
Started off as a walk-on for the Sun Devils and worked his way into earning playing time. Earned a scholarship more than 2 years ago now.
He's a remarkable story.
And he went to Brophy, and so you had Frederick Gamage at Brophy, and Elijah Gamage at Valley Christian, but now going the public school route. And what Elijah Gamage told me was the transfer. Actually, he's more excited about what it means for him on the basketball court than on the football field.
As there's a quick out right there to Jake White, and it's interesting because you watch what Fred Gamage did in the route that he took. He could have gone to a smaller program, but still at the Division I level, decided to walk on at ASU instead. And you mentioned after just 2 years earns a scholarship. Elijah has great football ability, but you mentioned, and it was something that I had heard as well, that basketball is really his passion, even though football in his family has been so impactful.
And you always wonder, everyone talks about how much they love multi-sport athletes until push comes to shove and you're a coach on a team and you want a kid out at practice and you don't like the overlap. And for a lot of kids who are involved in basketball, that's a year-round sport, and you really suffer if you're not going up against some of the best competition year-round because everybody else is.
Yes.
Then again, football players bring a different mindset to the basketball court. They're a little bit more disrespectful with the ball in their hands. They get into the lane a little bit more.
They're a little more physical. Yeah.
Exactly, and examples of that include Cassius Pete out at Corona.
That's a great example.
And so, Nikhil Harry right here at Chandler High. And so it can really help him in basketball to do what he does on the football field.
Nick Thomas on a little hitch route, throws it a little high but complete. It looks like that's Austin Werbelow again. This is just a junior, this kid Werbelow. There's a lot of juniors on this Desert Vista team that make a big impact. When you talk about Werbelow, you've got Chris Garcia, you've got Jake White, Elijah Gamage. But that'll do it for the first quarter. 34-0. The Chandler Wolves on top of Desert Vista. That's Ralph Amson. I'm Jared Cohen. We'll take a short break, and we'll be back with the start of the second quarter. See how skinny he is? Yeah. Dropped a ton of weight. Because he got sick, right?
Yeah, but also he made the decision to go back to offense.
Oh, okay. So what's 49 plus 34?
83.
I'll wait till halftime to tweet that out. I was about to say the last 2 games I've seen from Chandler, 49 and then this. I was at that Brophy. Were you at the Brophy game?
No, I was following you in Chile with you.
Oh, was he? Back here for the start of the second quarter, Jared Cohen, Ralph Amsden from Chandler High School, and we are both really surprised after that first quarter result that saw the Chandler Wolves break out to a 34-0 lead after 1 quarter. Desert Vista with the ball, trying to get on the board here to start the second quarter. Have moved the chains once already, and there's a nice throw up by Nick Thomas intended for Joe Money, but a late pass breakup as it was coming in to deflect the ball away. It looked like that was Imani Lee that broke that pass up. Another big-time track guy on this Chandler Wolves team.
Absolutely, has college scholarship offers for track and field, and that's the way this school has always been. A lot of the people that are here weren't here for football. They just sort of took advantage of their talents on the football field, and that goes back years and years and years. Some of the best athletes that Chandler's had never ended up doing anything with football at all. You had Bryce Lamb that went on to Notre Dame track. I mean, you've just had story after story after story, and it's not just the men; it's the women too. Kai Westbrook, one of the fastest girls to ever be in the state of Arizona.
Wow. Chad Porter fumbled. That was an interesting move right there for Chad Porter. He fumbles the ball. They're saying the Wolves recovered it, though. Chad Porter fumbled it.
I think that might have actually been a 4th and 2.
Oh, was it? Then that's my bad. We're not keeping us in the loop there. I was so dialed into the track conversation. But it looked like they fumbled. Porter recovered it and tried to flip it out to Nick Thomas, knowing it was 4th down, to try to run for it. But when you're down, and it's a turnover on downs for Desert Vista.
Yeah, you never like to be going for it in your own territory 10 seconds into the second quarter because of the deficit, but Desert Vista has to make something happen here.
They did. They had to. So now it's 1st and 10, Chandler from the Desert Vista 45. Conover with 3 to his right, 1 to his left. Steps up into the pocket. He's going to air this one out. He's got Gunnar Romney downfield, who makes an incredible catch. And he's in the end zone for a touchdown. He just walks right in. Gunnar Romney, with 2 guys on him, makes the big catch and just walks right in for 6.
That was some 18-on-18 crime. Gunnar Romney pulls that ball in, and then he has something to say about it before he just walks into the end zone.
I was confused. It looked like he caught it, and then he just kind of walked in.
He was looking back like the ball had been intercepted, but I think he just had something to say about that play. They bumped in air. He comes down with it, and I mean, this is the definition of swagger right now. But here we are, 21 seconds into the second quarter, and it might be time to call off the dogs.
It's crazy. Extra point good for Cash Peterman.
And it's not necessarily like Chandler isn't getting other players involved in their starts. We haven't seen TJ Green with a carry since the shoulder issue. Jarrett Caldwell, who caught that touchdown pass, that was his 2nd touchdown catch of the season, both of which have come in the playoffs. So all of a sudden you have a 6'2", 190-pound kid coming on, out of nowhere, and it's just almost unfair, the level of talent. When everything's clicking for Chandler, you have to look at this team and say maybe they're a match for Mountain Point.
And they are definitely a different team, and one of the biggest things that happened over the course of the season for Chandler was Coach Aguano decided after the Corona Centennial game and then after that Mountain Point game to shift his focus to the defensive side of the ball, kind of regroup that side of the football. Not even necessarily from a play calling or schematic standpoint, but from just a base level fundamental and mindset standpoint. And he kind of changed from being an offensive-minded coach to really focusing on the defense. And, boy, this team has just completely changed from where they were at the beginning of the season.
And Aguano, he's a guy that was a college running back, played at, I think, the Division III level. And so, for him to be able to let go of the reins of the offense is such an incredible luxury with all the talent that they have here. And for Jacob Conover to come along as far as he has in his sophomore year, you start to have conversations about, who is the best underclassman quarterback in the state. And it's a list that rolls about 7 quarterbacks deep.
It's crazy.
But Conover's name has to be mentioned as potentially the best. And that's also a list that includes Spencer Rattler, who has several big-time college offers.
Yep, no question about it. The quarterback play overall in this state has just improved immensely just in the last 5-6 years. Brett Hundley was like an anomaly when he was coming up here at this Chandler High School because of how much he was being recruited and how talented he was. You just didn't see quarterbacks like that here in Arizona, at least that often. As there's a squib kick, it's going to be played by Leland Dillard. He crosses the 30. He's got some open space in front of him now as he goes back upfield. Some blockers ahead of him. Trying to get past the Chandler defender. He can't and is pushed out of bounds just before the 40-yard line. But on that kick return, Desert Vista has their best field position of the game.
It was a great block by Saif Saleh. He saw that block and he cut to the left and ends up getting it into Chandler territory, it looks like.
But going back to quarterback play, so Brett Hundley was like the guy. There were some other ones, of course. I mean, you go look back at Ryan Fitzpatrick, who had a great career. But in terms of the widely recruited quarterbacks around the country, you just didn't see it as much until Brett Hundley came around, and now you see it with abundance.
And that's just it. It took about 7 quarterbacks coming through the state of Arizona, having a high rate of success to wake people up to the fact that there were some very good quarterbacks here. And then all of a sudden you have, everybody recruiting Brett Hundley. And that really opened the state up to some other people. Because before that, you did have Ryan Keeley. You did have Max Hall. You had John Beck. You had Ryan Fitzpatrick. You had Rattay.
Yes.
All of these players who went on to have fantastic careers, most of which ended up in the NFL. Ryan Fitzpatrick is still there.
Still
even
playing.
set the record this week for most touchdown passes thrown by anybody who went to high school or college in Arizona. So, and there were I think Danny White's son played. I remember playing against him. When
Danny White's another one.
Yeah, Danny White's another one. So you had a lot of talent. Steve Bellis, even going back in the 80s, you had a lot of talent come out of the state of Arizona. But at the same time, people weren't really recruiting here. The colleges they would go to included Harvard, BYU, Louisiana Tech, or they'd stay home. And so Brett Hundley really broke it open wide for everybody. And now you have quarterbacks all over the RMAC, all over the Big Sky Conference, all over the Mountain West Conference, and the Pac-12. And you have SEC quarterbacks as well.
As there's a dump off and a throw right there to Porter, trying to stay on his feet. Boy, this guy is a warrior. Chad Porter, as he gets down inside the 25-yard line, and it takes almost everyone on the Chandler defense to finally bring him down. Porter was on a mission on that play.
That's probably the most positive development we've seen offensively for Desert Vista in this game, and all it took was a superhuman effort.
Yeah, there's no question. That was a superhuman effort. The senior trying to put his team and all the Chandler defenders on his back, as it'll be 1st and 10 from the 24 now of Chandler for Desert Vista. Desert Vista just trying to get on the board here before halftime. A lot of time left to do so, but they trail 41-0. Werbelow spread out to the right, White to the left, rolling out Thomas. And it's incomplete, intended for Porter, but Chandler just had pressure on Thomas right out of the gates, and he had to get rid of it before the play could develop.
It's wild to say this, but we're a missed extra point away from a running clock with 10 minutes left in the second quarter of a quarterfinal football game at the highest level of Arizona high school football.
Between two teams that came in playing really well. Not just one team playing really well, the other just coming off a freak upset, a lucky upset. Desert Vista was not playing like your typical 10 seed coming into the state tournament.
Absolutely not, and I don't know anyone in the state who picked them to lose to Mountain View. I didn't either.
Technically, it was an upset, but I think a lot of people saw it happening the way it did.
Absolutely, because they were playing as well as anybody in the state, potentially outside of Chandler High.
Chris Manoa is there to stop Porter there for the short game. Haven't seen a lot of Leland Dillard in this first half. Granted, it hasn't been easy to get anyone the ball if you're Desert Vista in this first half, but he's the type of guy that's a difference maker. I'm sure they're going to want to try to find him the ball here on 3rd and 7 from the Chandler 21. It looks like Dillard's going to be out of the Wildcat formation, and he's going to throw it over the center of the field. It's Werbelow, and it goes right through his hands, incomplete. Really good play call right there from the Desert Vista sidelines as they lined up Leland Dillard out of the Wildcat formation. Ran Werbelow up the seam, and it was just slightly overthrown.
And I think for Leland Dillard right there, obviously he's not a quarterback, but when you see that much daylight, you have a tendency to possibly want to put a little bit more on it because they can run under it. But had he gotten him the ball, it would have been green all the way to the end zone if he'd gotten them the ball right away.
So on 4th and 7, of course, Desert Vista's going to go for it. Thomas throws, middle of the field, overthrown, intended for Stagg, and another turnover on downs for Desert Vista.
It'll be interesting to see if Chandler comes out throwing here just because of the time on the clock. I mean, you shouldn't really be letting off the gas 2 minutes and 35 seconds into the second quarter. And you're trying to keep your team fresh to eventually hopefully play a team that beat you by 49 points in Mountain Point. And so, you want to get reps in against a talented defense. So, and I would not be surprised to see them throwing on this drive.
Score around 6A right now as Brophy leads Red Mountain 12-7. That game being played at Central High School as Conover hands the ball off on an inside run, and the ball comes out, and Desert Vista recovers. So a break right there for Desert Vista. Was that Green that carried the ball and coughed it up?
Number 26 for the Thunder, Caleb Humphrey recovers the ball.
I'm not sure if it was Green or Ryan Johnson.
Looks like it might be Johnson.
He was running off the field a little bit awkwardly right there.
And he's taking a knee on the sideline.
He took a shot as he ran up the middle. Ball came loose. They knew this was going to be a physical game. This is a tough Desert Vista team. They got a lot of tough players.
First and 10 Thunder from the Wolves 30-yard line.
So Desert Vista takes over the first stop of the game for Desert Vista, whether turnover or in sequence of a punt. Thomas throws over the middle, incomplete. Pass was intended for Dillard.
Defending on the play for the Wolves, number 44, Zach Bowers.
Zach Bowers there initially to hit Dillard as the ball was coming in. It's the second time we've mentioned his name.
Second down, 10.
I was at Phoenix College for that Brophy game last week. That field was a mess. It is really good that they moved it to a different field because the center of the field at Phoenix College was just torn apart. For the safety of the kids, it was good they moved it. As that ball's intercepted by Bryce Jackson. And now Jackson's got some daylight up the sidelines. There's no one that's going to touch him. The 20, the 10, the 5. Pick 6 Chandler Wolves. Bryce Jackson, the touchdown. And the Wolves open up a 47-0 lead with 8:55 left here in the first half. My goodness.
I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like this. Obviously, you have a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's like deja vu for me.
And that's where Chandler ended their scoring, was on an interception return for a touchdown. I'm not sure Chandler's done scoring tonight, though.
It has been all Chandler in this game in every phase, causing turnovers on special teams, undefendable on offense, and now making big plays on defense. Second turnover on offense of the game for Desert Vista as Cash Peterman's extra point is up and good. 48-0 Chandler Wolves. The Arizona Interscholastic Association would now like to recognize True West. True West Credit Union is a proud sponsor of the AIA. Arizona high school students can get a jump start on their financial success with True West's My Money program for teens. Learn more at truewest.org/mymoney or visit the nearest True West branch today. What's going on in that Hamilton game, Ralph?
Tyler Shuck with an 8-yard run, all 6'5", 6'6" of him, made it into the end zone to put Hamilton up 21-14 with 7:06 left in the second quarter. That was about 5 minutes ago.
Who'd you take in that one?
I actually took Perry in a 45-42 game. Perry and Hamilton actually come into this playoff matchup giving up a combined 55 points a game.
Wow.
Hamilton is giving up over 30 points a game on the season.
Which is unheard of for the players and the defenses that they've had over the last several years.
They've had several years where they gave up less than 200 points on the season total.
Elijah Gamage will receive this one, runs up the middle of the field, just shy of the 40-yard line. And that's where Desert Vista's offense will come back out onto the field, trailing 48-0 here in the first half.
So we're in a running clock situation, and they've actually gotten it going.
I tell you, Ralph, did not see this one coming. I mean, I know how good Chandler is and how well they've been playing, but I thought Desert Vista was going to be able to come out and really stick with them at least for a half.
The turnovers are not helpful, obviously, but at the same time, when you're getting behind the defense, or when you're able to go up and get a ball the way that Gunnar Romney did.
That was an incredible play.
Yeah. But it also gives Chandler the luxury of sitting TJ Green, who has ice on his right shoulder. You don't have to get Ryan Johnson back into the game, who got injured on that fumble. You can just get some experience for some of the freshmen that you pulled up, for some of the JV guys that you pulled up, and worry about what you're going to be doing next. And Brophy is currently up 19-7 on Red Mountain in the middle of the second quarter in that game.
Brophy looked good last week. It looked like a team that was rested, had 2 weeks to work, had the bye week on the last week of the season. And they played well. Nick Thomas is going to air this one out. A little bit underthrown. White had to come back for it and can't make the play. And there's a late flag that comes in back around the line of scrimmage.
And for Red Mountain, unfortunately, their quarterback that they've really rallied behind, Austin Duffy, had a neck injury. He wasn't able to play, and so they go back to using Mr. Everything, who's their best playmaker, as a quarterback. And that's not necessarily that you want to get the ball to him. You don't want to have him looking to get the ball to himself. So, and Lance Lawson, and so that's going to be a huge blow for Red Mountain in that game, and it'll be interesting to see if they can come back.
Personal foul on the Chandler Wolves gets Desert Vista into Chandler territory to the Chandler 45-yard line.
One of the closer games out there right now, with two Division I quarterbacks going head-to-head. Catalina Foothills actually leading Sunrise Mountain 17-14 in the second quarter.
That's a big game right there. Catalina Foothills is a team that you just can't sleep on. They've got these guys. They remind me what Brophy did two different times, where you have a lot of underclassmen that you played as underclassmen. They took their lumps, and now they're all seniors and have the experience and the ability to try to go on a run here.
And, Brophy broke my heart last year because they had like 37 seniors, and I had picked them to go to the championship game, and it didn't end up working out that way. So knowing they're going to be young, I've picked against them about 5 times this year, including this game against Red Mountain, and every single time outside of the Chandler game, they've made me look dumb. And so shout out to Brophy for it's just a Scooter Molander coach team. That's what they do. They're well developed.
So it'll be third down coming up here, 3rd and 7 as James Stagg is a little bit gimpy coming up at the end of that play. James Stagg, the hockey player, Ralph. You talked about him, the potential football prospect. He came up as a hockey player, and he actually got invited to play in the Canadian Junior Professional League, but family didn't want to move to Canada, so he took up football. Hillard makes a nice one-handed grab. It'll be enough for a first down. Gets up in the air and is downed inside the 30-yard line.
I am surprised he wasn't flagged for a penalty trying to go up and over on that play in the high school game. Jumping over people is actually a penalty, but they...
AKA doing the Manny Wilkins?
Absolutely, the Manny Wilkins, or as it will be known, the Michelle Obama. When they go low, you go high. So, but you can't do that here, and he did not get flagged, and that's interesting.
The Michelle Obama. Well said, my man. 4 minutes left here, running clock here in the first half. Thomas, quick out to Leland Dillard, has some space trying to cut upside and get the edge, and he's driven out of bounds. And a late hit as he was pushed out of bounds, and Leland Dillard is down at about the 15-yard line. He is able to get up under his own power, but there's 2 unnecessary roughness personal foul penalties on this drive for the Chandler defense.
Sounds about right. I hate saying that, but this is the school I went to back in the day. My freshman year, Bobby Wade actually came to visit. It was the second year that Desert Vista was open, and they just put it on Chandler. But so did everybody back then. And, I mean, we're talking quadruple. It looked a little bit like the score does now. And I remember we got a bunch of penalties then. I got a bunch of penalties under Ewan, got a bunch of penalties under under Coach Iguano. That's just sort of been Chandler's MO, and they've shot themselves in the foot a lot, but at the same time they do have that state title, and when they are disciplined, they're very, very hard to compete with.
So after the penalty, it was 1st and goal from the 9, a short gain right there for Desert Vista, gets him to about the 6, where it'll be 2nd and goal. ASU also in action tonight, Ralph, so a busy night, Thursday night in the city of Phoenix.
Was really, really hoping that this could have been a really meaningful game for a Desert Vista alum and J.J. Dealman, who was playing starting center out there for Utah.
Here's it up, caught, touchdown, Desert Vista. Is that Stagg? James Stagg, who got banged up a little bit earlier in the drive, catches the Nick Thomas pass, and Desert Vista gets on the board for the first time tonight with 2:49 left in the first half.
And you got to love the way that he just trusts his receivers and puts the ball up there. And so far, he hasn't really been burned on it. The one interception was an errant throw out into the flat. But, when he's been going up high with these balls, they haven't really made him pay too much. And right there, James Stagg gets a touchdown.
So now Riley Erickson in on the extra point. He's getting recruited to the next level. Another one of the kickers that have made a good name for the state of Arizona. His extra point is up and good to make it 48-7 with 2:49 left in the first half.
It is a great year for kickers in the state of Arizona. You actually have Arizona State hoping to wrangle Brandon Ruiz away from his Alabama commitment. He's out at Williams Field, and if they're not able to, they're looking at quite a few other kickers to replace Zane Gonzalez, one of the best kickers in the history of the NCAA. But they're looking out at Pinnacle, they're looking out at Brophy, they're looking out at Phoenix College, where there's a Hamilton alum, and they're definitely exploring their options. Even Christian Zendejas, who's out at Perry, who definitely has some Arizona State ties, is somebody they're looking at as well. So expect to see Arizona State pull a kicker from the state of Arizona, and if it's not Brandon Ruiz, it'd be any number of a talented number of kickers that the state has to offer this year.
The Arizona Interscholastic Association would like to thank Papa John's. 40% off Papa John's. That's right, if you use the promo code AZPreps365 during your online order at www.papajohns.com and receive 40% off your order. Use this for team meals, school meetings, Friday night dinners, etc. It's Papa John's through May 31st. On the kick return, didn't quite grab who that was on the kick return. He opened it up for a big gain and then lost the football. Was it Kendon Walker?
He had sort of broken it open, gotten his shoelace grabbed, and he was trying desperately to keep his balance. And while he was flailing his arms, just sort of tossed the ball out in front of him and ends up bouncing right back up into his arms. But that's the way that you let a team back in, because Desert Vista's not going to give up. They don't care that the score is the way it is. So you got to protect the football, protect this lead, and make sure that your second unit's the one that's getting reps right now.
Conover in. DeCarlos Brooks is in at running back. They hand the ball off to him. He gets across the 50. No more TJ Green in this game. His pads are off. He's got ice on his right shoulder. We caught that early in the first quarter on one of the first drives of the game. He's getting his shoulder worked on. You hope it's nothing serious that lasts more than this weekend.
You look down at that Chandler sideline. There sure is a lot of talent without shoulder pads on. You see Colby Taylor down there, who's missed the entire season from a recurring bone break in his leg. He's committed to Oregon State. He's going to be graduating early, but he actually went he actually went out in a playoff game, I believe, that you were covering, Jared.
Against Desert Ridge, the game they lost in the semifinals last year that sent Desert Ridge to the state championship game. It was on a kick return in the very first quarter. It was a pretty gruesome injury. Ended up being a little bit, I don't want to say better, but not as horrific of an injury that we might have thought in the beginning. But nevertheless, it kept him out all off-season, and then he re-injured it in the preseason, as there's, speaking of injuries, a player down for Desert Vista at the moment.
actually was covering a game out at Sunrise Mountain High School that night, Westview against Saguaro. Saw that Kobe Taylor was hurt from your updates on Twitter, and drove out to Gilbert Mercy and saw him right after he had his surgery.
Is that right?
And he was in really good spirits. Mason Moran was out there. His older brother Kerry Taylor was out there, and he was pretty certain that he was going to come back fairly quickly, and ultimately just I think ended up breaking the other bone right before the season started. Isn't able to play. It's definitely eating him up inside, but he's got a lot to look forward to out in Corvallis, where he's going to be joined. He's going to be joining several teammates, and then he's going to be joined by several past and present teammates as they've just built up that huge pipeline into the state of Arizona.
Oh, they've done a fantastic job recruiting Arizona over there. And we were talking about him a little bit before the game, off the air. Daryl Garrettson's done a nice job stepping in at quarterback, former Chandler High quarterback. So they've done a nice job as there's an inside run again to Carlos Brooks, who has enough for a Chandler first down, moving the chains.
Absolutely. Mason Moran has had to spend some time as even a second-string emergency backup this year, and they were definitely hoping to redshirt him. They've had some injury issues. But, they have the Payne brothers from the Mountain Point Championship team. They have Timmy Hernandez from that team. They've got TJ Green coming in, Kerry Taylor coming in. And then they just landed a commitment today from Deontay Sykes, a graduate, I believe a 2014, 2013 graduate of Chandler High School, who's been at Mesa Community College the last 3 years, formerly committed to UCLA, and formerly also committed to San Diego State, but went to MCC, still very, very young. He's going to be a 2-for-2 player out there, but he's still, I don't even believe he's 20 years old yet. And so he should be able to give them some great production. And I mean, they're just absolutely raiding the state of Arizona.
And they got Paul Lucas, too.
Hamilcar Rached as well.
Hamilcar Rached. There's a flag down on this run for Johnny Johnson. And I think that's going to be in the direction of holding on the Chandler Wolves. We are under a minute left here in the first half. 50 seconds left, 48-7. It's been all Chandler Wolves here in the first half. Catalina Foothills looks like they just scored again, now up 24-14 on Sunrise Mountain. It's a game to keep an eye on.
Higley currently leading Cactus 28-20. And Perry has come back to tie Hamilton at 21.
That's going to be a heck of a finish. You can also stream that one right now on Sports 360 AZ.
And then Lance Lawson scores a touchdown on the ground to bring Red Mountain within 19-14 of Brophy right before halftime.
You can never count that Red Mountain team out, can you? They're a team that, if they don't win the game, they're going to at least keep it close.
And probably the surprise score right now might be that Catalina Foothills score that you brought up. That's a team of players that have been playing together since youth ball. And when they get in a rhythm, they're really, really hard to slow down. And Sunrise Mountain was hoping to not have a disappointing playoff outing the way that they did last year against Verrado when they had a championship on the brain and had gone into the playoffs undefeated. So this is a big game for Sunrise Mountain, and they're hoping to not lose on their home field.
Either way, a quarterback that's going to be playing major college football or playing for a major college football program will be done, and their career will be over between Rhett Rodriguez and Chase Cord as Conover with some pressure behind him and sacked way back into his own territory. And that'll be a punt situation. Larry Davis, another guy that we have not talked about yet for this Desert Vista team. Only a junior leads the team in tackles out of the linebacker position.
And that's impressive. I mean, you look at the list of people who have led Desert Vista's defense, some of the talent they've had come through. I think Cade Van Raphorst, converted quarterback out on the defensive side of the ball. They've had some really talented players.
Kennard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I believe, records are really muddy when it comes to Arizona State or the AIA and Arizona high school football. But for the longest time, Devin Kennard was the sack leader at about 24.5, I believe, and he's a New York Giant now. They've had a ton of talent come through on the defensive side of the ball, and so to be mentioned as a leader certainly bodes well for Larry Davis.
So Jacob Conover is in the game, but I think he's in to punt because it is 4th and 26 with 26 seconds left. Chandler hasn't had to do very much punting this season. And Conover's the one to have come in and do it. Elijah Gamage back to receive for Desert Vista. Snap is high, the kick is up, and it's a short one that goes out of bounds. Maybe around the 42-yard line. They're going to credit all the way up at about the 40. Whereas that's an interesting spot. Call them at about the 45, 44-yard line, where Desert Vista will have 19 seconds to try to cut into this lead a little bit more. They got 7 the last time their offense was on the field on a touchdown from Nick Thomas to James Stagg.
Now this is a team that has scored on sort of a Hail Mary pass just a few weeks ago. Nick Thomas to Jake White to take the lead and get the win over Desert Ridge, and so I don't expect them to just run the clock out here.
High snap. Thomas will hand it to Werbelow. Run between the tackles, and he gets crushed by Zach Bowers. Right into the face mask, he took that hit, driven to the ground for a short gain.
And I guess I was wrong about them running the clock, and they're going to go ahead and go into halftime.
They are. We've played a half. What a half it was for the Chandler Wolves. They get a standing ovation from their fans. 48-0 at halftime over Desert Vista. That's Ralph Amston. I'm Jared Cohen. We'll take a short halftime break, and we'll have second half action coming up in a little bit. So we'll get things started here for the start of the second half as Cash Peterman. That is the moral of the story, Ralph. Don't leave your keys in the car when you're getting a tank of gas. Cash Peterman will kick things away. They've been doing all squib kicks. One of them resulted in a fumble in the first quarter by Desert Vista. They had 3 turnovers in the first half, 2 on offense and 1 on special teams, and there's another short one that's going to be played by Leland Dillard. Dillard catches it. Now he's going to try to cut upfield across the 30-yard line, trying to get the edge. It's going to be a great return, gets up to midfield. So great field position for Desert Vista as we get things started here in the second half.
I feel like we're seeing more of this throughout football. Running backs actually taking over on kick returns.
And it's interesting that you bring that up because by no means am I thrusting Dillard at this level, but he is that David Johnson type back where he's bigger, but he's fast, powerful, and shifty and has great hands. And they utilize him in ways that they kind of want to utilize David Johnson with the Cardinals, sometimes lining him up in the slot to run quick slants or quick outs or things like that, plus hand him the rock. That's kind of like a next generation of running back that we're starting to see.
And one of the toughest things to do with a bigger back is get them momentum.
As he gets the ball there on 1st and 10, and a little bit extra power gets him about 4 yards on the play. But I think you're going to start seeing guys that were maybe, suited for tight end type positions or bigger wide receiver type spots. Even guys that are normally a linebacker type build or a strong safety type build being utilized as a running back for that type of reason.
Well, it turned Deer Valley season around this year. I believe they were 0-3. They moved a 6'4", 205-pound kid into the running back position, and they went 6-1 after that. And so, if you have somebody big, like a big bruiser, which Chandler has its history of that. This is where Terrell Suggs started out as more of a wing fullback position. Went over to Hamilton, became the feature back. You can really carry a team. Cesar Chavez this year with Mike Rogers. If you have somebody who is over 200 pounds, 6'3", 6'4", you can get them some momentum. These high school defensive backs are around 150. They don't really know what to do in those situations.
I mean, do you remember when Everson Griffin was at Awafria? They'd line him up at running back too. He's an NFL defensive end now. Was at USC. He played running back at Awafria. You couldn't tackle him.
Yeah, and he's doing okay for himself out there in Minnesota, making I believe eight figures a year. So
not too shabby.
Yeah.
3rd and 5, just underway again here in the second half. Thomas out of the shotgun. They line up a screen, but coming screaming off the edge was a Chandler defender, was Amani Lee. Thomas had to get rid of it in a hurry, and the screen that they were trying to set up is incomplete because Thomas had to get rid of it. Amani Lee making his presence felt here with some nice plays tonight.
He's a very, very good defensive back. He's maybe a little bit more polished than a few of the people they've had playing defensive back over the last couple of years. They've actually had to convert some offensive players to fill in defensive back roles, and they've had some transfers play some roles as well. But Amani Lee's sort of a natural in this position.
They'll send Stagg in motion at the tight end position. Thomas to throw, looking to Stagg, and is it intercepted? It looks like it might have hit the ground. Nope, they're going to say interception for Chandler Wolves, and right on cue, my friend, Amani Lee with the interception.
Yeah, couldn't have scripted that one any better. Definitely showed those natural instincts there. He's definitely a track athlete. That's what he'll be doing, after the high school level. But this being one of the last games of his high school football career, he's definitely showing out.
Under kind of cuts off that route to James Stagg, intercepts the ball. 4th turnover of the game for Desert Vista. Conover will throw an out route to Johnny Johnson on the first play of the drive, and he's still on his feet. Takes 3 Thunder defenders to bring him down as he gets across midfield.
And he is strong. He is strong. And the entire Chandler team has sort of gone through the same weight training regimen that helped Nikhil Perry out of ASU get as big as he is. And you really see the effects on the football field.
Yeah, there's no question. He put on so much size in this offseason. He went from kind of a small, undersized slot receiver to being really an impressive receiver that could play any spot on the offense.
And that's where they liked him last year, was sort of running out of these little bubble screens. And so I think he realized he had to get more physical, got to get bigger. He's done that this year, and now they have 2 receivers with over 1,000 yards in him and Gunnar Romney.
Another out route complete to Johnny Johnson, just shy of the first down, gave him about 6 on the play. Romney, I mean, man, if you put some strength, some muscle on him, he's already tall, lengthy, with a great vertical.
And has just such a great relationship with Jacob Connerman that you'd think they've been playing together their whole lives.
Gonna hand the ball off to DeCarlos Brooks. Cuts back up the middle. Kind of juggled the ball a little bit, but maintains possession. He's still on his feet as he gets down at the 20-yard line. All will right there for DeCarlos Brooks. And a first down for Chandler, the son of a former Arizona Cardinal, with the big play there on third down.
DeCarlos Brooks was actually part of a very, very talented youth football team called Valor. They spread their talent out all over the valley. Nate and Deshane James were on that team out at Perry High. And then Brandon Shanks, Hamilton's second-string quarterback, son of the freshman coach, he actually was their kicker, and now he's going to be playing quarterback for Hamilton the next couple of years. And so a very, very talented team, and they just sort of spread out all over the Chandler Unified School District.
Damian Maxwell gets the carry on that run right there, the junior running back, another underclassman that'll be back next season that has a lot of talent. Him and DeCarlos Brooks will be the featured backs next season once TJ Green is off to Oregon State, along with a few other of these Chandler players. There's Maxwell again, receiving the ball out of the backfield, dives at the pylon. They're going to say he's down at the 1-yard line, and I'm not sure about that one. I know fans aren't going to go too crazy with a 48-7 lead, but it'll be first and goal from the 1. First and goal from the 1. Conover hands it off, trying to get into the end zone as Maxwell, and he does. So he'll end up getting a touchdown anyway. 1-yard touchdown run for Damian Maxwell, and Chandler opens up a 54-7 lead here in the third quarter.
There's a Maxwell to the house pun that I was working on and never quite got it, so I'm giving up on it.
Cash Peterman with the extra point. It's up and through. So with 8 minutes left here in the third quarter, still all Chandler with a 55-7 lead. The AIA would like to take a moment to recognize the U.S. Army. In life, some things you can't control, but there are those things that you can. Important things like your future. The Army is all about the freedom to create a strong future that's right for your life. To learn more, visit goarmy.com/AIA today. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. So with 8:02 left, is the running clock back in order here, Ralph?
I believe so. They haven't fired it up yet, but it should be.
So Cash Peterman will kick it away. Another one of those short kicks. And it's caught by Elijah Gamage about the 15-yard line, and he's going to be pushed out of bounds at about the 25. You know, one thing that Coach Hines thought we mentioned that we might see is a little bit of Elijah Gamage at the quarterback position, kind of running a wildcat, but they are also adopting, calling it the Sparky formation.
Of course.
That's becoming a thing here now.
So believe it or not, Desert Vista opened and played their first varsity season in 1997 right before most of the kids on the field were born. Unless we have like a 19 or 20-year-old ringer down there, which I don't think we do.
Yeah, no.
But this is only the fourth time that they've given up over 50 points on defense.
Is that right? In a playoff game or just
Ever.
Wow.
Ever. It's the third highest
Look
total.
at you, Mr. Statistician here up in the press box.
Well, thanks to the start that Chandler is off to, I got nothing but time to look up obscure facts and figures, and this is the third highest total they've ever given up. The most they ever gave up was in their first season. That's the only time they've ever given up over 60 points, and you got to hope for Desert Vista that they're not headed for that territory tonight.
4 wide receiver set for Desert Vista. Thomas is back to throw, and it's a little high intended for Dillard, and a little frustration right there on Dillard's part, as it looked like he brought a Chandler defender down with him as he was being drugged to the ground. So frustration starting to set in. I think it's been in for Desert Vista. But they call a personal foul on Chandler? I'm not sure the officials saw the same play that we did just now.
Chandler High does have a personal foul quota, and so this might just be part of that.
Coach Aguano is thinking the same thing that we are up here, and it looked more that Dillard was a little bit more the culprit there on the physical nature at the end of that play, but Chandler is the one that gets called for the penalty. So 1st and 10, Desert Vista from their own 40-yard line, trailing 55-7 here with 6:40 left here in the third quarter. Thomas back to throw, intended for Stagg, incomplete. A lot of these throws have been a little high for Thomas. A lot of that has to do with the pressure that Desert Vista's putting on him, and he's having to throw off his back foot.
And Thomas, he doesn't put a ton of touch on his passes because you got to get him out there quickly when they're running these 10-yard outs. Desert Vista doesn't do a lot of 9 routes, doesn't do a lot of stuff down the field. They like to create a little bit of space and then use the size and athleticism of the wide receiver to their advantage. And so he's basically just trying to get rid of the ball as soon as he can because this defensive line's coming in hot.
There's Thomas, and it's intercepted once again. Chandler Wolves pick it off, cross the 40, cross the 30, lot of speed, the 10, the 5, touchdown Chandler.
There is a flag down on the play. It came well after the ball was intercepted, so it'll be interesting to see what they say. The receiver slipped and fell. It'll be interesting to see if they had the defender that was shadowing him as maybe having his hands on him. But the flag came so late. I mean, it was during the actual return that I would be surprised. No, it looks like.
Well, the interception return for a touchdown was by Tamir Waters, but we'll see if it's looking like that's going to be negated with the flag.
You're hearing chants of why was it so late from the crowd, and that's a question that I share in this circumstance as well. The flag came after the interception return had maybe broken about 5 to 10 yards.
So instead of a pick six, it's a penalty into Chandler territory at the Chandler 45-yard line. Nick Thomas at quarterback, 4 wide receiver set, has some time. Now flush to his left, and he's going to throw it away out of bounds and incomplete.
It might be at the point right now where Desert Vista's total offense rivals the amount of yards that they've been gifted by Chandler through these 15-yard penalties.
And there have been a few of them, quite a few of them at that. And they have not really been able to get the ball moving on offense. They had the 1 touchdown drive, but that was after a turnover by Chandler, which gave Desert Vista a short field. Second down and 10, 2 to the right of Thomas. Dillard next to him in the backfield. They're going to hand it to Dillard. There was Manoa quickly in the backfield. It alters Dillard's run, and he's lucky enough around the edge to get back to the original line of scrimmage. But young Chris Manoa, the junior, just broke through the Desert Vista offensive line and almost made a big-time TFL in the backfield.
Sometimes when you're as big as a player like Manoa, it's tough to get through the line. even if you break through, you're not necessarily in a situation where you're free and clear. So to see him get in the backfield so quickly and have hands on Dillard right after the ball's put in Dillard's chest, that's a really, really encouraging thing for Chandler's defensive line.
So 3rd and 10 for Desert Vista, and it looks like it's going to be a false start on the Thunder as they were getting ready to run that 3rd down play. And that is, in fact, the call. That'll move him back to midfield, 3rd and 15. We've got 3:43 left, running clock here at Chandler High. Wolves on top of Desert Vista, 55-7. Running back TJ Green left the game in the first quarter with a shoulder injury. His pads are off. He will not return to this game, nor why would he with the lead like this, but you hope it's not a lengthy injury. Ryan Johnson also no longer wearing pads on the sidelines. As that ball was almost intercepted by Cito Hemphill Toledo. Just kind of mistimed his jump, but another high throw from Thomas on 3rd and long, and the punting team will come out. That ball could have been taken back the other way as well.
Hemphill Toledo, I believe, transferred over from Hamilton. Something that very few players have done. Some have done with great success, like Malcolm Holland, who I think transferred over and back. Terrell Suggs comes to mind.
But going the opposite direction.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And so I do believe that Kurt Mangum, who we brought up earlier in the broadcast, played for both schools as well. So it's not something you see happen very often, and he's somebody that they could probably use with some of the issues they've had in the defensive backfield this year.
And that punt right there, kind of a microcosm of the night for Desert Vista. A high punt from Riley Erickson that takes a bounce back the other direction, and no Desert Vista player is there to stop the ball, and it bounces all the way to the 33-yard line where originally it bounced around the 20. And you could hear the coaches from all the way at the other end of the field saying, grab the ball, grab the ball. And I saw Coach Dan Hines just kind of put his hands on his head at the end of that play. So it's just been that kind of frustrating night for Desert Vista. Hand the ball off. It's to Carlos Brooks. The inside run, but he loses the football and he jumps back on it. It's the second time we've seen DeCarlos Brooks a little loose with the ball.
Chandler took advantage of a Porter blitz there. Ran right off the tackle. Porter was blitzing on the right side, kind of took a wide angle toward the quarterback, and ends up being a large gain for Chandler.
And I apologize, Damian Maxwell was the one on the run right there. He had that last touchdown run. Caleb Humphrey, a junior for Desert Vista, is down with, it looks like, a right knee injury. So we'll take a moment as the AIA would like to recognize Arizona Christian University. ACU is a private, nonprofit Christian university in Phoenix, offering bachelor's degrees in a variety of different areas of study. Arizona Christian University provides a biblically integrated education that prepares its graduates to serve the Lord in ministries and professional occupations. Visit arizonachristian.edu for more information. Got a score check, Ralph?
We do. Speaking of that Hamilton secondary, they got a little bit confused earlier when Perry ran a reverse with Nate James and threw it back to Brock Purdy for a 9-yard touchdown. And then Perry goes for 2, and they get it. They're up 29-28 with 9:55 left in the third quarter.
It's going to be a big-time, exciting game down the stretch down the street at Perry High.
And Mountain Point currently leads Desert Ridge 30-14.
There's a handoff, and there's a lot of space right there for DeCarlos Brooks. Boy, a good-looking run. Still on his feet, spun down inside the 30-yard line. But, man, there is a lot to like from DeCarlos Brooks from what we've seen out of him since he came in the second quarter and TJ Green went out with injury, plus Ryan Johnson.
His balance seems to be his best trait. He's got a little bit of TJ Green in him that once he makes that first, jump cut and gets out in the open, you're really interested to see what he's going to do from there.
1st and 10, Chandler into Desert Vista territory. They're at the Desert Vista 28-yard line. We're going to hand the ball off. This is Maxwell this time. He gets around the edge, getting towards the 15 as he's driven out of bounds. And I apologize. That run was Devin Shivers, junior running back. So another running back to get to know here in the second half of this game.
I do believe he's the little brother of Tyree, who played at Mountain Point.
At Mountain Point?
Yeah.
And he went on to the next level, didn't he, if I remember correctly? I remember hearing him at the JUCO level, I think.
I do believe so.
As there's Brooks back in the lineup now. Brophy on top of Red Mountain, 26-14 in the second half.
And we have a score update from Hamilton. Tyler Shuck, who knew? He is running for touchdowns. This time a 41-yard touchdown run.
Really?
Hamilton a 35-29 lead. 7:48 left in the third quarter. They might rival this game for total points.
It might. Meanwhile, this game is headed to the fourth quarter, and it's been all Chandler Wolves since the opening kickoff. 55-7, they lead the Desert Vista Thunder after 3. That's Ralph Amsden. I'm Jared Cohen. The fourth quarter is coming right up. For the first few minutes of the second half, we didn't have your mic on. I don't think I said much. So I got a text from Mr. Brad Sesmat saying, it's hard to hear Ralph. And I looked at your mic and I noticed it wasn't on, so I just kind of did. So I apologize for that. Well, what he does is he goes out to the game. He goes out to games for the first half, and then he just jumps on social media for the rest of the evening. He kind of like shakes hands and kisses babies at games for pregame and then the first half, and then he goes home. I don't know if he even went out, though, tonight because he was sick all week.
I saw him at the Mount Arizona Avenue luncheon.
Yeah, he hosted it, didn't he?
Yeah. He's like, how are things going? Keep it up. I was like, no. I can't just talk to you. I was wanting to quit.
Go for it. After?
We have a score from the
Fourth quarter, getting ready to get started here from Chandler High. A running clock is underway as Desert Vista trails the Chandler Wolves 55-7. The 10-seeded Chandler Wolves, or excuse me, Desert Vista going up against the 2-seeded Chandler Wolves. And a flag comes in before we even run a play.
5-yard penalty assessment marked off against the Wolves.
5-yard penalty on Chandler, so quite a bit of penalties on the Wolves here in this game overall, but a lot in the second half. Got a lot of the second stringers in right now.
I'd say we're still working on that penalty quota. I expect to see a couple more.
New quarterback in right now is Billy Bolger, the junior, comes in, and he's going to hand the ball off, getting the edge. DeCarlos Brooks hits the pylon. Touchdown, Chandler Wolves on their first offensive play of the fourth quarter to open up a 61-7 lead. I really liked what I've seen out of DeCarlos Brooks. He was a guy that before the Brophy game, talking to Coach Aguano, I was like, who are some of the underclassmen that are starting to kind of come into their own that you're looking forward to next season? He mentioned Zach Bowers, who we talked about a lot in the first half, and then he mentioned DeCarlos Brooks as a guy to keep an eye on, and he looked pretty good in that Brophy game. He's looked really good here tonight.
Chandler's freshman team set all sorts of freshman records last year. DeCarlos Brooks was one of the big reasons why. Obviously, Jacob Conover. But yeah, this is a team that is just consistently reloading ever since Sean Aguano took over the reins from Coach Ewan. It seems to be that they've really stocked up on the talent they're getting in as freshmen, and you have a lot of people electing to come to Chandler High that wouldn't necessarily have done it before, don't necessarily live in the boundaries, but the way Arizona works is you have open enrollment. You come in as a freshman, you're good to go, and so you have people who have made such a huge impact on this school, like Dustin Woodard, who's starting at the University of Memphis as a true freshman on the offensive line. That's a kid who lived a stone's throw from Hamilton High School, and instead of being one of Hamilton's big boys, comes over and plays at Chandler High. He's got a little brother in the program, and they just start this culture. And Chandler really does have a rich history. They got a lot of people in the neighborhood who come out and support this team regardless of whether or not they have kids on the team, or some might have had kids that played 20, 30 years ago. It's one of the oldest schools in the state, and I mean, once they got good, the culture here just sort of it was
flourished.
Absolutely, because they had wanted it for such a long time. Look at it this way: between 1997 and 2005, when Hamilton was really coming into its own, Chandler made one playoff appearance in 9 seasons, and they did not win that game. So, I mean, to see how far Chandler has come, especially in a district that has such big schools like Perry and like Hamilton with over 4,000 enrollment, and when Chandler is a landlocked school, you can't build any more apartments, you can't build any homes nearby. You really have to rely on the strength of the program, the strength of the academics to lure kids here as freshmen if they don't live in the district.
And that's a really good point, because you look at the Perry area, the Basha area, now even the Castile area, there's so much growth and development in terms of residential developments. And this is not an area that's going to have residential developments. It's pretty much built. So you don't have a lot of people moving in. You don't have a lot of people building homes. That's the other schools is where it is. But you mentioned they've built a culture here over the last few seasons to where this is still a destination if you're a high school player to play some pretty substantial football.
And Chandler is a school that has over a third of their students on the free and reduced lunch program. Outside of a couple of schools in Mesa, Chandler really leads as far as the East Valley goes, in that area. And people have always thought that to be a factor in what plays into whether or not a school football program is successful. Are they building around your school? Do you have alumni support? And do you have people who are economically maybe better able to afford the training and the youth sports and everything that goes into coming in and being a successful football player as a 14, 15-year-old kid? Look at Desert Vista. I mean, they were successful almost immediately because they were in an area that was a little bit more affluent, and they were building right then and there. And they had success. I mean, I believe they won a championship with Bobby Wade in maybe their first couple years of being open.
Yes.
And so, that's something.
And then Hamilton had instant success as well.
They absolutely did. Within 5 years of being open, Hamilton had its first championship. They were in the playoffs challenging Mountain View with their very first senior class, four-year seniors, which would have been the 2001-2002 school year, which is incredible because Chandler was really just developing for the very first time back then. Now you have several schools in CUSD. Castile, which is named after Dr. Camille Castile, the superintendent here, is thought to be the next great powerhouse because of the development there, and it's an academically higher standard type school, so people are going to want to send their kids there. Plus there's new developments, and they just expect that school to flourish almost immediately. And you look at them, I think they had a 9-2 season.
Now, there was a completion right there from Nick Thomas to Joe Money. Joe Money, one of the best names on the football field here tonight, by the way. It was my first time getting the chance to call out Joe Money.
The fact that he doesn't have a UV shaded visor bothers me.
Yeah, right? You think that would be required with a name like that?
Oh, absolutely.
But you look at, you grew up here, Ralph. I mean, you have to just kind of be just amazed by what Chandler looks like today compared to what it looked like even 10, 20 years ago.
Well, absolutely. I moved here in 1987. I think there was 35,000 people here. I think by the time I graduated high school, there was 240,000. Think about what that does to a city and an economy. I mean, everything just sort of reshaped. But North Chandler really hasn't changed that much. There's a lot of the same people here that have always been here. If I go to Elmer's Tacos, I'm going to see somebody I graduated high school with all the way back in 2002. Almost every time. A lot of people stick around here, and there's a really tight-knit community with Hamilton and with a few of the other schools that were built after the fact. A lot of those people moved in to take jobs, and because a kid maybe only did 2 or 3 years at the high school, they aren't necessarily as apt to come back. I looked out tonight. I see Justin Wilson, a former varsity quarterback, working security at this game. I see Coach Eric Richardson on the Chandler sideline, who was the running backs coach when I was in high school. Sean Aguano in 2002, his first year, I was here for that. I see other people who played on the team that I was on. I believe Chandler's special teams coach is Tom Bombauer. He was the kicker on the team that I was on. And so, you have so many people just reinvesting into this program and sticking around, and it really makes for kind of a wonderful environment. Everybody shares in the success. Everybody that was bad for such a long time, they all celebrated that Chandler championship together.
I can imagine. It was almost it almost had the Cleveland Cavaliers, Chicago Cubs feel to it when they finally got over that hump, didn't it?
It really did. It really did feel that way, and it was kind of hard to believe for people who have been around for so long. I mean, and then to have that championship game come against Hamilton High School.
Yeah.
You know, who there are people within the Chandler program that kind of blame Hamilton for their woes being extended, not for their woes in general. This was never a football powerhouse. You know, this was a school that was losing to Yuma, losing to Coolidge, schools like that in the 90s. You know, it's not like they were going deep in the playoffs.
Chris Garcia, the carry right there, gets hit so hard that his helmet flies off. So what would you kind of pinpoint kind of the change in the tide with the losing seasons turning into the talented seasons but not getting over the hump with the playoff runs but not getting to the state title game that ended up turning into building the program that finally got over the hump and winning a state title? Where's kind of where's ground zero for that, where it all kind of began, in your eyes?
To me, and there are people, everyone has their own theory on this around the Chandler program, but to me, the spread was the biggest thing. The advent of the spread going from, you know, University of West Virginia, spreading throughout college football and dropping down into high school football, you have the opportunity for Chandler to put 5 elite track athletes on the field at any given time, and that was a really big deal. And then getting linemen to be able to be part of the program was the second really, really big thing. And then having consistency in the program as far as players who, you know, older brothers were here, you knew the younger brothers were coming up through, developing the freshman program, all that stuff was kind of secondary. Rick Garrettson as a quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator was huge for this program. You know, so many things sort of helped them get to the mountaintop, but to me, the catalyst was the spread offense and using the talent that they already had here and were going to continue to have here in the best way possible. They were running for the longest time a wing T offense with a bunch of guys that ran a 4.4 40. And it just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, it's really interesting stuff. There's a little out route hit to Leyland Dillard. He also loses his helmet when hit initially. So he'll have to step out for a play. But enough for a first down, I believe. No, they're just going to be about 3 or 4 yards short of a first down as Desert Vista as we get into 2.5 minutes left here in the fourth. How about Centennial over Desert Edge, 21-0 right now in the second half?
I'm surprised by the nothing, but to me, Centennial is the best team in 5A, and they were the best team when they met Desert Edge in Flagstaff that first time. They just didn't know it yet. I think they even shocked themselves with how good they were in that game. You know, that's a team that turned the ball over twice in the fourth quarter and had the ball with a Hail Mary try and only lost by 2. To a defending champion Desert Edge who returned almost everybody. It's unfortunate that game came in the quarterfinals, but this Centennial team is giving up 8 points a game, and Zidane Thomas is one of the angriest runners I've ever come across, and
yes,
I feel like the championship is theirs to lose.
Do you feel like those are the top 2 teams in 5A playing each other tonight?
I do believe that this year Williams Field is the most talented team in 5A, even more so than Centennial. But when it comes to Richard Taylor and championship experience and having seen both of those teams live, I think that ultimately you win with defense, ultimately you win with running the ball, and Williams Field does well in those areas, but they're more of sort of a pro style thing where they'll you know, kind of nickel and dime you a little bit, go over the top to maximize. They rely on the big play. Centennial doesn't, and to me that gives Centennial the advantage in a championship matchup, and I believe those will be the 2 teams that square off.
And we haven't even mentioned the 1 seed Cienega yet.
And they're just super talented offensively and so efficient. I was looking at Jamari Joyner, the U of A commit, the junior who plays quarterback for them, and going into this game, he averaged 1 touchdown for every 6.5 carries,
Oh my goodness,
and 1 touchdown pass for like every 8 throws.
that's incredible.
Yeah, he's very, very talented, and they've got a great offense down there.
Well, Chandler is 34 seconds away from moving on to the semifinals. They play the winner of a wild game that you can also stream on Sports 360 AZ between Hamilton and Perry. Nick Thomas flushed out, and he is sacked. And that will basically put a cap on this game. 17 seconds left. 12 seconds left. As Chandler Wolves, from the start of the game, put together a miraculous, fantastic performance against the Desert Vista Thunder and have a lot to celebrate and be happy about. With a dominating win, 62-7, the final over the 10-seeded Desert Vista Thunder. Ralph, before we get out of here, just maybe a takeaway you have from the game.
Chandler is really good at football.
Yes, that's a good take. That's a good take you have. More to expand, or that's about it?
There's not much to say. I don't even think Chandler played their best football. Obviously, the penalties are I joked about it, but the penalties are an issue. I mean, if you can clean that up, they had a rough possession right before halftime. You know, those are things that they're still going to get chewed out in the film room about, and they're things that you can definitely improve. This wasn't Chandler's best effort, and they won by 55 points. The second time Desert Vista's ever given up more than 60, going back to their first ever playoff appearance loss to a Mountain View dynasty. So, Chandler is good at football. We'll just leave it at that.
Chandler is good at football. That's Ralph Anderson. Appreciate him. Appreciate the students of Chandler High School's TV production crew bringing on this broadcast. On to the semifinals of the Chandler Wolves. They again will take on the winner of Hamilton and Perry. I'm Jared Cohen signing off from Chandler High School. Again, the final, 62-7, Chandler over Desert Vista.